Action figures are great!
Welcome to the newest edition of TNInews with your host, JC. Hey everybody, JC here, and welcome to a Wednesday edition, or actually, sorry, it's Monday. That's how on top of things I am. But a Monday edition of TNInews Live. So we've got quite a few things to cover today. It's the 1st of July, so we are just about 24 days away from San Diego Comic-Con. So I'm expecting some pretty cool news from that convention, again, towards the end of this month. But yeah, we got a lot to cover today. So let us just get a quick roll call. I see Everett is in the house today with a lot of comments. So what's going on, Everett? Zim, I see you there. What's up? Adam, Shaggy is in the house. What is up? Collectible Fun, good to see you. El Charinto, if I mispronounce that, I apologize. Cool first time watching live. Good to see you. Always good to have a newcomer. Mr. Allmine is in the house. Good to see you. Slacker Hacker's in the house as well. So looks like we got a pretty good crowd here. So, you know, as I was waiting for the show to start, I was looking through. So one of the things I picked up at Joe Fest, yes, at Joe Fest, I picked up a Masters of the Universe book. Go figure. But of course, Pixel Dan wrote this book and took the pictures. So he was there as a guest of the show, and he was selling his book. So I decided to go on and pick this up. So other people involved with the book, Val Staples from He-Man.org, PowerCon, Pixel Dan, and a bunch of other guys as well. But definitely it's an interesting book. It is somewhat expensive. It's $60, but hey, I got Pixel Dan to autograph it for me. So I felt complete with that. But it kind of, what I wanted to start off with today talking about is this article, and I don't know, not a great segue here, but an article that I've been seeing a meme. Somebody took the picture, or a picture from one of the articles, and started passing it around social media. So, and this is in regards to this idea that the adult buying toys for themselves has become the leading consumer group for the toy industry, which is true. But like, you'll see this this is the meme that people have been passing around. So first of all, whoever posted this image took an image from the New York Post and photoshopped it with the action figures in it. You'll see the action figures up there. But this is the actual original image, and no action figures. In fact, the guy is playing with Legos. And that's kind of what I want to talk about here. Now, I will say in this New York Post article, like they quote some guys you might be familiar with, Dan Larson, or not even really quote, but just kind of feature him in this for no real reason. And there was another guy, that they list as influencers, basically, Geek Dad Life. So, again, they mentioned these guys in the article, but it's not like they brought them on to share thoughts or anything like that. So I don't know what the point of that was. But basically, even the New York Post article is, now the New York Post article, I guess, because when I first saw this image getting passed around social media, like I remember seeing this guy, and so I thought this was the actual image from the New York Post with the action figures. And again, whoever this posted this on social media with this headline photoshopped it, made it up themselves. But I've been seeing a lot of people in action figure groups and stuff passing this image around. I'm not sure if they even read the original article. And as far as the original article goes, it actually, the New York Post is basically taking this article from Circana. I think that's how you say this publication's name. They're the ones that originally posted this information. And the thing to highlight here is, they show you the top selling toys for April 2024 from, the adult consumer. Essentially people buying toys for themselves, adults buying toys for themselves. And what you don't see here is basically action figures in any real way. There's a Star Wars R2-D2 25th anniversary. I'm not sure what that is, but I don't think it's an action figure. Squishables is actually, the super big selling item which is, to me, is kind of like this generation's Beanie Babies, which are put out by, the company Jazzwares. They make the Squishables. And so that's really your big hot seller that's pushing this demographic so much. And I mean, those have, gotten really popular because, like, you can go into a mall and there's actually dedicated Squishable stores in the malls, if you can still find a mall, or even like airports and stuff. So, those apparently have become really big. And like I say, to me, the Squishables are kind of like this generation's Beanie Babies. But, you see a lot of other things on here that really aren't action figure related. And that's not to say there aren't people buying action figures, because there most assuredly are. But I guess what I want to point out here is, before you start saying, oh yeah, toy companies need to do whatever we say because we're the guys buying the most toys. And, when you really break it down, action figure collectors are not really the ones that are ranking up here. So just kind of keep that with a grain of salt. But also just this idea that, like, people are passing around an image that's doctored and with a headline, and then like using it as I don't know, to say, kind of pat themselves on the back, like, look, we're the biggest consumer group. And to go further with this original article, the Cena or Circana, I should say, I think is how you say it. This article really isn't suggesting that the toy industry is very healthy. It is essentially saying that the largest consumer group out there is the adult collector, but yet companies are still reporting losses. The big toy companies are still reporting losses. So they are not, it's not like the adult consumer has grown so much that it's replaced the kids for a healthy, toy industry. It's basically saying that the adult consumer is the only one that's growing while the kids is shrinking, and likely the kids shrinking is shrinking more than the adults growing. And then the other thing, which these articles don't really touch upon, but is something you got to keep in mind as far as if you're looking at this from the toy industry perspective, is the adult consumer is primarily collecting for nostalgia reasons. So like somebody like myself who, I buy things based on stuff that I grew up with, right? Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, things like that. But there aren't younger kids coming up, collecting toys and stuff that are going to continue to collect things when they become an adult, because they just didn't get attached to those things because they're more embedded with their electronic devices and stuff. So, there's a small window here with this, the term that a lot of places use is the adult. There's a small window that basically eventually, guys like me are going to age out of the market. And when I say age out, I'm going to be so old that, I can't collect toys or I'm dead. I'm in my 50s now. So, I've got a few good years left, but but it's still, in the overall scheme of things, it's not like this is a demographic that has a lot of longevity, because again, the big problem here is toy companies are not really doing much to get the attention of young kids anymore. um, I don't know at this point if there's really anything they can do, but they've definitely not done a great job with that. So there aren't younger people. I mean, you do see. I still see people who maybe their 20s and 30s that are started to get into action figures, and that's where I see, like, the independent toy lines that you see popping up more and more, which are kind of like new ideas in the world of action figures. I think, that is where the future of this hobby is going to lie. It's not really with things like G.I. Joe, Masters of the Universe, the properties that I grew up with as a kid. It's these new independent lines that might be able to attract younger people, not young kids, obviously, but younger people, as in like people in their 20s and 30s and stuff, that like it for like the artistic aspect or the creativity aspect or things like that. So, I mean, it's never going to be what, the toy industry itself is, I don't think is ever going to be what it once was in its golden years of, like, the 70s and 80s and even 90s. But I do think there is a future for this hobby of adult action figure collecting, with the smaller independent action figure lines. But the other thing to keep in mind about that, though, is, like, as more and more of those pop up, the competition for your dollar is going to get, greater and greater. So, um, competition definitely has its pluses and minuses, but it's going to get a point where there's so much stuff out there that you're going to have to choose from, and that these smaller companies are going to have to figure out how they can stand apart to get your attention, basically. Prime One says Toys R Us needs to make a comeback in a retro way, not these new stores that look weird. Well, again, what Toys R Us is trying to do is they're trying to cater to parents. Again, Toys R Us is following this old model that they've all used to follow, which is they're looking at trying to attract kids with the Macy's stores, with the airport stores. You're right. If you go into one of those Macy pop-up stores, or even, they've opened a few small stores and a couple of malls, but you go in those stores and action figures is not like their main focus. I went into a Macy's when I was in Florida a couple of months ago, because the Macy's near my house has closed. The whole mall that was near my house with the Macy's has shut down. But I was at a mall in Florida that was still pretty, seemed to be pretty active, and there was a Macy's there, and so I went in there to the Toys R Us, and, like, there was no action figures at all at that Macy's. And I think as you get closer to Christmas time, they stock a little bit better. But again, you can see Toys R Us, while they're trying to make some type of comeback, which, Toys R Us, the reality is Toys R Us is never, I don't think, is ever going to get back to where they once were, at least not in this country. Um, but you can see they're still basically following that old model of trying to attract more in the way of parents shopping for their kids than the adult collector. Prime Collect. I want McDonald's to bring back. I just saw a commercial not too long ago from McDonald's with the Hamburglar, so I think you might have your wish there. Phil says my nephews are in their late 20s to collect their action figures when they're my nephews are in their late 20s to collect their action figures when they were kids. Like, what action figures is somebody in their 20s really going, like, if they're collecting for nostalgia? I mean, I'm sure there are some out there, but Rashid coming in late might not be able to stay, though. Well, glad you could drop in even for a few minutes. So welcome as always, and of course you can always catch it on the rerun. But yeah, that's my. I've been seeing that meme with the toy thing, and again, I'm not sitting here saying that adults aren't buying. There are more adults. Like, I've been covering this hobby for 25 years. Okay, so this hobby has definitely grown, um, since I started doing my websites 25 years ago. And companies, while I won't say it's fantastic, certainly give more attention to the adult collector than they once did. Definitely improvements over the years, but again, I still often don't see the large companies, that is, putting their primary focus on action figures. When you listen in on these, like, portfolio reports, financial reporting that companies like Hasbro and Mattel do, for on a quarterly basis, oftentimes action figures is barely even mentioned. So, while it's improved over the years, um, again, I don't think they're truly, unfortunately, the dominating force in the world of toys. For the adult consumer to buy toys for themselves to be, the largest growing demographic, if you go and you read the actual data, they threw in a lot of things into that. Everything, kind of everything under the kitchen sink, or including the kitchen sink, they kind of threw in video games, trading cards, the Squishables, Legos, all kinds of things. And honestly, one thing I'm kind of confused about is, like, how do you know? How do you know if an adult is buying something like a Lego set for themselves or for their kid? Like, I can see how you can gauge, just sales data, but how do you really break it down and know whether somebody's buying something for themselves or buying it for somebody else? That's a little confusing to me, but I'm sure they have their ways. Rashid says, if we're talking about nostalgia, I'll be 34 tomorrow. Happy birthday. Get that in there. And a large chunk of my collection is based on Dragon Ball Z, Power Rangers, Spider-Man, and Gundam. So, which I assume are the properties you grew up with as a kid, or thereabouts. Power Rangers, trying to think. So you're almost 20 years younger than I am. So Power Rangers was big when I was in high school and going into college. Like, that's probably why I'm not a huge Power Ranger fan, because I really didn't watch Power Rangers as a kid. By the time it came along, my interest had kind of moved on to other things. So Spider-Man, I mean, obviously the 90s Spider-Man cartoon series, I'm sure, with the Toy Biz Spider-Man. I mean, superhero stuff really started to come into its own right in the early 90s thanks to Toy Biz. If like, when I was a kid growing up, superhero toys was not really a big thing. Mego before kind of was before my time with the cloth outfits, but they did a lot of superhero stuff. But really, when I was a kid, the focus had moved away from, like, superhero stuff. So the superhero figures and such really didn't start to catch on until, like, I would say the 90s. Again, Toy Biz, and a few other companies, but Toy Biz really, is probably the reason why superhero action figures, and not just Marvel, because, believe it or not, Toy Biz started out doing DC figures before they started doing Marvel. So I remember the DC figures that Toy Biz used to do back around when the Batman, the first Michael Keaton Batman movie came out. Toy Biz was doing stuff for that, and that probably is what really heralded in the superhero age of collectibles and stuff, was like that Batman movie and such. Hey Andrew, what's up, my man? Thank you for doing a great job, and much appreciated. Yeah, Joe Fest was great. I obviously, as I think I told you, it was my first time there, but I had a great time. So for anyone's a GI Joe fan, I highly recommend. I even, not that they responded, but I sent Hasbro like Lenny from the GI Joe Hasbro team a message. I said, you guys are really missing out not attending something like Joe Fest, because I really feel like they should try and get to something like that. The GI Joe team should get to. I know there's more than one GI Joe convention out there, so I don't know how they would exactly do that, but yeah, but I had a great time. John says, I started with the Kenner Batman line in the 90s. Yeah, my first superhero figure that I can remember was the Toy Biz Batman figure from the '89 movie, and I still have that figure today. I also had the Joker, which I don't have anymore. I want to say, and then they started with the movie figures, and then they started doing more classic comic book figures. But I really only picked up a couple of the figures at that point. And then I kind of jumped over to Marvel with the Toy Biz stuff. I actually like the Mattel Secret Wars stuff was kind of like I didn't collect that as a kid, but when I started to get into superhero figures, I went back and started collecting some of those. At that point, the line had basically been done. You could still find some of them at like Toys R Us and stuff, but the line itself was basically done. And I went back and started trying to buy some of those Mattel Secret War figures. But then Toy Biz came out with the 5-inch Marvel stuff, and I love that line. That's still today. I mean, obviously, those figures are not as nice as Marvel Legends or even the Marvel Universe stuff, but articulation wise, but that was a great line, and that really got me into. I want to say that Toy Biz action figure line is really what got me as an adult collector, got me into collecting action figures. Because there was a gap as a kid. I got Transformers, GI Joe, and Star Wars stuff. That's what I got. My parents bought me, and I played with as a kid. And then I kind of got out of those for a little while. But then, and I was reading comics heavily. I started reading comics pretty heavily starting in like 7th grade. And then when Toy Biz came out with those Marvel figures, I was all in. Honestly, Toy Biz and the Marvel figures, and then Playmates toys with Star Trek, those Star Trek figures that they used to do, I really collected heavily because I was always a big Star Trek fan as well. Steak Juice. I tried to find you at Joe Fest to get a picture with you. I got one with APWT, Mega J, and Pixel Dan though. Well, Pixel Dan was easy because he was stationed right outside the door of the main hall. So yeah, I was so amazed at how many people would just walk up to me randomly and like recognize me. Like even when on Saturday I had my TNI shirt on, but like Friday I didn't, and people were still walking up to me. So that was really, a cool thing for you, you guys who recognized me and came up. But sorry I missed you, man. Um, I'll be at San Diego this year. I am going to San Diego for any of you who are going. So if you happen to see me, feel free to say hi. Navin Art. No superpowers wave 8 on GameStop. Are they done with them? It's hard to say. GameStop often, they'll put things up later. They don't always follow the pack, so I haven't heard anything. But I would just keep an eye out because you never know when they might pop up. I think they're still, except for like that Batman Superman one. I still think Entertainment Earth was the only one to list them in any way. At this point, so I don't really know what's going on. I don't know if those are like chase figures or what, but that was kind of weird. But I think most of the figures are still available at like Amazon and Big Bad Toy Store and such. Which actually, that's kind of a good segue to one of the stories I wanted to cover today, which was McFarlane Toys and their Platinum Chase figures. So it seems like we are getting a new like for those not familiar, Platinum Chase figures are essentially randomly inserted chase figures, meaning you chase around for them is basically how they're named. But like usually one per case. But before, like when McFarlane first started doing the chase figures, they were basically just non-painted grayscale action figures meant for like the customizer who could paint the figure himself. And it really started with like their Warhammer line, which I think had a lot of people who like to paint the figures and stuff, the model kits and stuff. So I think that was the idea. But then but then it kind of progressed to, painted figures but variants of existing figures that we already had. But now it appears that the platinum figure model is now incorporating unique figures, meaning there's not a regular release of this figure. It's just being randomly inserted. So this is the Manhunters figure that McFarlane is doing, and these are in-hand pictures via Green Lantern 808, and I have a link to his Instagram if you want to check him out. He got a hold of this figure, and it's a cool looking figure. It's got two head sculpts. It's got the battle damage head sculpt. Well, not head sculpt. It's actually just a faceplate. So you can switch out the faceplates. So you can see that. But it's a pretty cool figure. But this is a platinum edition figure. And as I understand it, it's basically shipping in the case with the new 52 Cyborg Superman and the Tim Drake Robin figure. So this is, I don't have a case breakdown, so I don't know if it's just one per case. But yeah, so we now have gone from just unpainted figures to figures that have different paint applications, sometimes looking better than the regular figure, which was annoying. But now we have unique figures. And we had seen these announced. You can see here they're listed as chase figures, but it wasn't clear what exactly he meant by that. But you can see the Manhunters figure, and then the Reverse Flash from New 52, and the character Sportsmaster, which is another kind of unique character. So these are all platinum editions. I don't know. I've seen all three of these figures hitting overseas in Hong Kong, but I don't know what cases the Reverse Flash and the Sportsmaster are shipping in. So, but again, they're being released as platinum edition figures. So, I got to feel like I understand the idea behind the chase, and I'm not going to sit here and say, as annoying as they can be, that there isn't some positive effects for chase figures for the hobby itself. And the reason why I say that is when you increase demand for something, that's generally a good thing. When everyone's just sitting around waiting for something to go on clearance, that's not really good for the industry or the particular action figure line. If everybody waits for DC Multiverse to just go on clearance, it's not, the line's not going to last very well. So, when you get something that gets people out there hunting for it, getting them in the stores or what, that's not all bad. It can be frustrating. And again, from the collector standpoint, I get that. But I do, think there are some positive things that chase figures can bring to the hobby. But I feel like, especially when, we're talking Todd McFarlane, he's overdoing it a bit. Like Mattel, I think, does a pretty good job with their chase figures when it comes to like wrestling. If you collect wrestling figures, WWE figures, they usually will insert a color variant chase in a lot of their lines. And I think they do a pretty good job with it. But, usually they're figures that if you didn't get, it wouldn't be like the end of the world. But if you like to have something that's a little more rare or harder to get for your collection, then it's there and you can try and hunt around and get it or what have you. But I just feel like McFarlane is maybe taking it a little too far. God Tank, what is in that? What's up, my friend? Collecting Rush, the most recent DC wave with Penguin, Starfire, and Cap Boomerang. It seems like it was a 6-figure pack, 3 regulars and 3 chases, but one of each, right? Like I wanted the Penguin, I wanted the Platinum Edition Penguin in that line because that's very reminiscent of the old Toy Biz DC Superpowers one, but I haven't seen it. I've seen the regular one. I think is available at Amazon, and of course, when you order like from Amazon, sometimes they'll just randomly send you one of the platinum figures. But it's kind of like playing the lottery. Northern Nomad. A lot of YouTube collectors that film their Walmart and Target hunts always say they are waiting for stuff to go on clearance. Well, the thing you got to remember with those guys, a lot of those guys live in areas where they get a lot better distribution of product. Not all Walmarts and Targets are created equal. And what I mean by that is there are a few places in the country, usually places that are near like the shipping, the warehouses and stuff, where their stores stock fairly regularly and fairly well. So that's usually where you find your guys that do the toy hunt videos and stuff, because obviously they live in an area where when they go and they find something, they've got something to actually film. Like me doing a toy hunt video at my local Walmart and Target would be such a complete waste of time, because every video would be the same. I'd be showing you the same empty shelves every video. So I mean, it's like, what's the point? So, I feel like those guys are definitely, a lot of those guys are located in areas that have better distribution. Toy Kind of Moods in the house. Hey, what's up? Wanted to give you a huge shout out for recording the Fresh Monkey panel and taking great shots. We had Bill and Chris on Fresh Monkey Fiction on our show yesterday and tossed your. Nice. I appreciate that, guys. I was watching, I was actually watching your interview a little bit earlier today. So if you guys aren't familiar, A Toy Kind of Mood, they have a YouTube channel, of course. Um, just do a search, A Toy Kind of Mood, if you're not familiar with them, and you should be able to find it. But yeah, they were at Joe Fest. They actually had a panel at Joe Fest. So I was there. I was waiting for the Fresh Monkey Fiction panel, but I sat in their Toy Kind of Mood panel and listened to what they said. So that was cool. But check them out. They did an interview. I'm actually going to be probably doing an interview here myself soon with Bill from Fresh Monkey Fiction. So look for that as well. But definitely check their video out and check their channel out. Eric Elman, I have the Chase Batman first appearance. I really like that figure, but the neck is unfortunate. I I don't, off the top of my head, don't remember that one, but I'm gonna take your. You talking about the very original Batman that McFarlane did? Actually, that the regular one at least. I don't remember them having a chase of that one. If that's what you're talking about. Judge Dreads. I only wanted Starfire, but I'm not tripping. Yeah, I mean that's really for me where I'm not going to go hunt. I mean, if that's what you like to do, that's more power to you. But I don't usually go. I very rarely go. Well, again, it's kind of a waste of time in my area. But I've never really been somebody that like wakes up when the store opens every morning to see if waiting for the truck to come in and unload the shelves. I mean, that's just never really been something I've done. On a rare occasion, if it was something I really, really wanted, like I remember a few times with the Target exclusive GI Joe classified figures, I would go when they would get their shipment in and have to sit there and wait, which was very annoying. Or the other thing I always hated doing was like walking up to a Target employee and saying, "Hey, can you check this DPCI number and see if you guys have this in the back storeroom?" And usually they would do it with no problem, very nice. But I hate to be that guy. It's like, "Hey, can you go back and dig around in your storeroom and see if you can find me something?" So that's never really been my thing. My Walmarts and Targets are pretty lean. Yeah, I mean, like I say, and it's gotten worse in recent years. I mean, they used to occasionally get stuff, but nowadays it's like they just never have anything. Judge Dredd says watches their channel. I assume you're talking about A Toy Kind of Mood. Nice. I randomly received the Chase, Starfire, and Penguin from Amazon. See, you won the lottery, dude. You won the. That's like hitting the lottery. Congrats. I remember it was funny because when they were originally doing like the unpainted figures, like nobody really wanted those. So it was like people would randomly get those in the mail, like they thought they were ordering the regular figure and they'd get this unpainted figure. And people were getting mad. They were like, I didn't want this. I wanted the regular figure. So I think that's kind of why they ditched that whole thing. Like chases don't work as well online because either a lot of, small e-tailers generally will take the chase figures out and sell them separately at a little bit higher price. And I know you might initially say, well, that sucks, but they've got to do it so that they can, stay profitable, because a lot of times they get stuck with the unsold stuff. And so, I mean, they're within reason. I mean, if you're jacking up the price 4 times of the price, that's bullshit. But usually, your legitimate retailers, they might raise the price a little bit, but not too bad. And that way you don't have to hunt around for them and stuff. So like I've bought a few off of Big Bad Toy Store when they've sold just the Platinum Edition figures. Like the Captain Carrot, I got the Platinum Edition one of that because I like the colors better on that one. Um, but like I wouldn't have hunt around for that figure if otherwise. So I would have just been like, oh well, I can't get it. Even like that penguin. Like I say, if I saw the penguin or had it, be able to buy it at a fairly reasonable price, I'd get it. But I'm not gonna like lose sleep over it. Justin Mohan, what's up, my friend? Yes, Fresh Monkey panel. Definitely, if you guys, anyone who hasn't checked that out, you should. Fresh Monkey Fiction, I think they've been around. Fresh Monkey Fiction isn't necessarily a new company. They've been around, I want to say, like 10 years. But I think they're definitely, because they started out more as like a 1/18 scale, focusing on that, the smaller scale figures. But they've been making the jump to 6-inch figures and stuff. So with the cops and everything, which again, we'll use that as a segue to get into some more news, because I know that's what you guys are primarily here for, is the actual news and not me rambling. So we do have another Operation Monster Force figure that went up for pre-order today. Of course, here in the United States, these are sold as Big Bad Toy Store exclusives, basically. But we've got the Delta Red Urban Operations Trooper, which is going to cost you about $37. So kind of a zombie. I don't know. We call this guy a zombie or a vampire. I guess he looks more like a vampire than a zombie. But a vampire in tactical gear. But definitely, I love the take on these figures. Just like the combination of like your monster fantasy with military. I think it's a great idea that they came up with Monster Force. But again, this one is available for pre-order now on Big Bad Toy Store. These went up last week. These JoeCon, or I always say JoeCon, Joe Fest exclusives. But I believe they've sold out. I believe both of them are now sold out. Yeah. Oh no. Yep. Both of them are sold out. So these were cool figures, especially if you like translucent figures. Now, of course, there are regular versions of these coming. But yeah, and you can go to TNI, and I break down all the information as well. So if you don't want to sit through the entire panel, but definitely it's worth checking out. Of course, the big news from that was the cops figures. And again, if you go check out the interview with a Toy Kind of Mood, they talk about that. I'm excited for this line. I can't say I was a big cops fan in the late 80s when the cartoon came out. Original figures were put out by Hasbro. But this is a line I definitely think has a lot of potential, especially when they start getting into like the bad guys and stuff. Like you had a bad guy that was I felt like was kind of loosely based on the Kingpin from Marvel, though he had hair, he wasn't bald. But the crime boss guy kind of always reminded me of the Kingpin. Or it says rambling should be what live streams are meant to be. The news are on your website. Good point, Chris. And honestly, that is something like when you're doing YouTube videos, that is something where it's kind of like, because you got some people that like to hear, ramble or whatever you want to call it. And then there are other people that are just like, yeah, get straight to the point. So it's kind of a hard to get that balance. Skunk Life Media. I started watching Cops on Tubi. Oh, is it on Tubi? I was looking on YouTube to see if episodes were available on YouTube, but I didn't see it. I saw that they had like somebody had posted the opening credits. So Deke was the one that made that cartoon, and I think they did a better job with that than like when they took. Sorry, I hit the wrong button there. That was my fault. But yeah, so thanks for letting me know it's on Tubi because I might go back and start watching that series. I vaguely remember. I mean, Cops came out in the late '80s, so I vaguely remember that show. But I remember the toys more than the show in that particular case, which is kind of weird. Usually, I remember the cartoon more than the toys. Yeah, Big Boss, but he looked very much like the Kingpin. J Rambler C. I can ramble with the best of them, that's for sure. All right, let's get back into more news. Let's keep it going with the news. Um, so here's some images. Second time, Toys Around in Comics has gotten in hand the recent Playmates Toys Technodrome. So we got some in hand shots of that new packet. The new one, the original one is bigger. So if you're wondering that, so um, the one here on the right is the old one, the original one from Playmates, and then the one with the blue base is the new one. So you can see it's a bit bigger. And I'm not sure. I'm assuming this is a Technodrome from a newer turtle line from Playmates. I don't remember this. So any of you who are, and when I say newer, I mean like newer than the original line. But I'm not. To me, this almost looks like a bad looking Unicron. This little thing over here, but these two are, this is the original one, and then this is the one with the blue base is the new one. So you can see the new one is a tiny bit smaller than the original, and that is I think that's still available on Amazon for $80 if you want to add. Oh no, it is sold out. So I'm sure they'll get more in at a later date, and that is, I believe, an Amazon exclusive. So Amazon is the only place, at least for now, that is carrying that Technodrome. Valerverse for you Action Force fans. So Bobby Vala from Valerverse finally put up his panel from last Saturday. He was not at Joe Fest, and I'm not really sure the story behind that, but he was not at Joe Fest. He was at the DFW show this year, which was the same weekend as Joe Fest. Which again to me was really weird that you had two GI Joe conventions on the same weekend. But so he finally put his panel up. But one of the figures that he announced during the panel was this pink figure, Steel Brigade figure, female figure, which basically for those who buy this figure, it's supposed to go up for sale in October. But proceeds from this figure will go to a local Rhode Island breast cancer clinic or now I'm forgetting the word I'm looking for, but charity. There we go. A breast cancer charity. So basically, this figure is being done for a good cause. We've seen other companies do things like this. I remember when Star Wars released or Hasbro released the Star Wars Pink Astromech droid, and that was kind of the same thing. So if you want to try and help fight breast cancer and get a cool action figure, that again is going to be available exclusively on the Valerverse website in October. So that was one of the things announced during that panel, and you can watch the entire panel if you haven't already. It's on the Valerverse YouTube channel. again, he put it up this Saturday as opposed to on the weekend that it was. I think he wanted to do editing and stuff, so I think that's why there was the delay. And from what I understand, I think somebody here told me that he wasn't allowing anyone else to record. So, but just to go over some other things that was announced. So 2025's vehicle is going to be the Swarm Locust, and it will come with a pilot. So this is next year's Valerse Action Force vehicle. And according to Bobby, he wants it to be under $100. He's not swearing that it will be under $100, but that's what he's pushing for. Again, this is the Pink Trooper. This is a elite Praetorian, which is going to be a con exclusive. When I pull the information back up, because I don't have all this memorized, but I wanted to show you the images first. Now I lost my cursor. Ugh. My mouth. There we go. New heads sculpts coming for figures. So these are vac metal, flock figures. And of course, you always got to call them in the live stream. Flocked beards and stuff. I want to say Fresh Monkey Fiction was looking at doing flocked heads as well. They mentioned that in their panel. Vac metal, grenades. Now this is the exclusive figure. The packaging. Doing new backpack packs. Let me give you the information. All right, so things that were announced. Series 5 reissues. We're going to be getting a Garrison cavalry figure, which will be Caucasian this time. We're getting a reissue of Trigger, which will have camo pants and a new tattoo. So some slight differences, but essentially these are reissues that will come during Series 5. A new head pack Alpha, which I'll show you here in just a minute. A hand pack. We're getting hand pack. He's going to start doing hand packs for meaning a pack just full of alternate hands. So there'll be Alpha and then Bravo. The Bravo ones won't have any gloves on them. The Alpha will have gloved hands, and the Bravo will be ungloved hands. The Vanguard, which is the current vehicle, is going to be getting a muddy variant that's going to be limited to 500 that they're going to sell directly on the Valerse website. More details to come on that at a later time. They're also doing a Vanguard upgrade kit, which will have the brush guard, armored windshield, armored doors, cow catcher, and then also you can combine the brush guard and the cow catcher on the vehicle. So, and that'll be coming out in early 2025, likely. The pink and they're doing a pink Vanguard as well, which they're limiting to only 50. So that'll be a very limited run of pink Vanguards, which again I'll show you in just a minute. I already talked about the breast cancer awareness Steel Brigade figure. The Terrificon Elite Praetorian figure, that's that translucent green one I showed you a minute ago. And then there's also going to be so they'll be at that convention August 16th to the 18th. And then I believe their final convention of the year is going to be Rhode Island Comic Con, which will be November 1st through the 3rd, which they're going to give us a new Pandora figure, which Bobby calls the party version. I'll show you that in a minute. And then we're also getting battle points where you mail in the points. They're doing a Pandora figure in white. So they'll offer that figure where you can just buy it directly without the points, but it'll be more expensive. The Covert Ops Condor, which I guess was their first battle points figure that they did, will be available without points on the Valerse website in the near future. Big Bad Toy Store exclusive figure. I talked about that one previously. That went up for pre-order last weekend, so I've talked about that one before. New backpacks coming. Told you about the flocked head sculpts and the vac metal. More weapon packs, a rocket launcher, Series 6 and 7 are coming next year, but they didn't show us any of those figures. They're going to start doing statues with Pandora. So if you're into statues, we're going to get an Action Force statue sometime next year. And then again, the Swarm Locust will be next year's vehicle. It will have a pilot. Also look for a medic figure in Series 6. So that's your news from the Valerse panel at the DFW show. And then let me just go through the slides, not necessarily in the same order I just read you, but, and of course, again, you can go to the Valerse YouTube channel and see the entire panel if you want to. So this is the party version that is going to be a con exclusive. So Pandora, guns, more guns coming. That's the Trigger reissue with the different tattoo and camo pants. So this is a look from the panel itself. So that's the Vanguard, the Muddy Vanguard, and then the new Swarm vehicle, so you can get kind of an idea of the size. That's the white Pandora figure I talked about. That's your rocket launcher that they're going to be doing in a weapons pack. Again, more looks at the Swarm vehicle, the unpainted model. Here's your look at your hand pack. These are the Bravo without the gloves, including your middle finger hands. That's the packaging. This is the muddy variant that they're going to do in both colors. Basically a lot of mud on the tires and the bottom and everything. And then this is the upgrade kit. That's the head pack. That's one of the head packs that they're doing. Another look at the upgrade kit for the Vanguard. That's your bloody variant Pandora. Again, I think I already showed you that statue. And this is a concept art for the pilot for the Swarm vehicle. And that's your pink Vanguard. Again, will be limited to 50. That's the Covert Ops Condor that will be available on the Valerse website. That's the packaging for the pink Vanguard, which is separate from the pink Steel Brigade figure, which the pink Vanguard, the proceeds will not go towards charity. That's just something they're doing as like a weird variant. But the figure the proceeds will go to charity. That's the Big Bad Toy Store Night Ops Senshi figure. That's the reissue of the Garrison Cavalry figure, the Caucasian version. So that's your breakdown of the news from for you Action Force fans out there for Valerse from the DFW show, which again technically was not this past weekend, but the weekend before, same weekend as Joe Fest, but we just got the information this past Saturday for that. Davey says Valerse is great fill-in and fodder for classified. Definitely, I think that. I mean, if you like to me, Action Force is very much essentially a generic military line, and I don't say that in any kind of bad way. It's just, and definitely there are people who like that, but it's more of a like. And you're right. I think it is. If you want fill-ins for GI Joe, I think the two lines do go together pretty nicely. I always get to me, Action Force. Like I think of Action Force, and I know Bobby bought the name, but Action Force was originally a line, essentially. I want to say was a UK version of GI Joe, but Bobby's line is more of just a very basic military line. Though you get things like the Swarm Troopers and stuff, which are kind of unique. They're not just standard military. But yeah, definitely, I think the two lines are pretty complementary for one another. Judge Shut says, "What, the pink Vanguard?" Yeah, apparently somebody's wife had suggested it, and so I guess Bobby thought it was a good idea. I'm a child at heart, so yes, I will get tons of hand packs and have my figs on display. Yeah, I mean, if you want all your figures, to give the middle finger, I don't know if somebody on here who collects. I'm not a huge Action Force collector, so I don't know if the hands are compatible with something like GI Joe Classified or Marvel Legends or stuff. So I don't know if you can use those hands on other lines. But yeah, I guess if you wanted to have a ton of figures giving, somebody walks in and all your figures are like flipping them off. Rashid says, I keep missing out on the Stormtrooper. I picked up the PowerCon one. I didn't go to PowerCon this year. I picked it up at the Maryland Toy Expo back in November. Not the most recent one, but the one they did in November. Valerse was there. Valerse was supposed to be at the Maryland Toy Expo. Like Maryland Toy Expo is twice a year. They do it in the fall and the spring. And Valerse was supposed to be there for this year's spring show, but for some reason at the last minute canceled. But last fall in November, I went to the Maryland Toy Expo and I picked up the PowerCon Stormtrooper, which just because I love the colors on that, the black and the red, I think look really good. Somebody, I'm not sure what judges. Ramen's doing some type of special video on Friday. I'm interested to see if there's any updates on that tank that they showed at Joe Fest. Judge about yeah. So let's see. What else can we jump into back into news? What did I want to cover? We talked about Monster Force. We talked about Valerse. We talked about McFarlane. Let's see what else. We got some more San Diego Comic-Con reveals, this time from Diamond Select Toys. So we got a Gimli figure from Lord of the Rings. So this will be offered at San Diego. Again, through Diamond's previews, but these are Diamond Select Toys. And for those of you who get confused, Diamond Previews is the distributor. Diamond Comics is the largest distributor in the United States for comic books to comic book stores. Diamond Select Toys is their toy company within Diamond. So, and I believe these will be available online as well. So I don't think you'll have to go to these usually end up getting made available online at some point. I'm looking to see if they gave us a date. I don't see it, but again, usually these do end up getting sold online. And for you Mini-Mate fans, we've got a new turtle set in VHS packaging. For you Marvel fans, they're doing a Wolverine bust. For you Transformer fans, they've got a Transformer Mini-Mate, again in VHS packaging with 3 Seeker Jets and Shockwave. So Acid Storm, a Nova Storm, and Ion Storm. So like those 3 Seeker Jets that briefly appeared in the very first episode of the Transformer cartoon, along with Shockwave. I don't really have any new Marvel news for you guys today. Obviously, last week's big Marvel Legend news was the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, the Death's Head, the original version, which I talked about in Friday's news video. But I don't know. What do you guys think on that? What do you think about this year's like San Diego Comic-Con exclusives in general? I got to be honest, like I probably will pick up the Death's Head, and I might pick up the G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Commander Was a Man. but I haven't decided if really those are the only two that have kind of stood out to me. I did. Um, I wasn't going to, but I did on Friday pre-order online the NECA turtle set and the Super Elf. So I did end up picking those up. Again, I wasn't going to, and then I was like, oh hell, what the hell? So I did get those, but I really but otherwise I really have not been like super excited for any of the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives this year. Even like the Marvel Legends and the G.I. Joe Classified, if I didn't get my hands on them, it wouldn't be the end of the world. The Once a Man Cobra Commander is just kind of such a unique figure that I figure like they probably will never do that again. So that's kind of the only reason why I'm picking that one up. It's not like something I've necessarily been dying to have for my collection, but I just felt like it was so unique that I should go on and get it. And I probably will take the snake one and put it on my Roadblock figure. So I probably will do that. I don't know about the regular figure itself, but and it is $40. It's definitely not cheap. So that doesn't help, but yeah, just in general, San Diego Comic Con exclusives to me have not been super exciting for the most part. Eric says Masters of the Universe Origins is a good one for me at least, and the Hasbro Marvel Legends and Joe offerings is neat. Still excited for Figure Arts Goku exclusive. You haven't been covering Tomasi Nations, I think. Well, we cover it on the site. You're right. I haven't been covering it here on YouTube that much. Um, as far as the Masters of the Universe one, I've kind of fallen out of Masters of the Universe Origins. So for me personally, it's a cool figure. I like the idea of the two bad with the two individuals, and then you can swap out the parts and create actual two bad. So I think it's a really cool idea. I just for me, I've not really been actively collecting Origins, so I don't really plan on getting that one. But it is a cool, definitely it's a cool idea. Judge Dredd. I've got the Death's Head too, um, and that's a cool looking figure. But I feel like the original one is more iconic. Uh, Death's Head is $40, and for those not going to San Diego, they will have some available. They will have some available on Hasbro Pulse after the convention. Skunk Life Media says, "Once a Man Cobra Commander is fired, such a good idea." And it actually, when you think about it, it's a good idea for something like a San Diego Comic Con exclusive because, again, it's one of those figures where, like, if you didn't get your hands on it, it's not the end of the world. I think for most people, like like say Doctor Mindbender, that's a figure like you wouldn't want to miss. That would be like a huge hole in your collection if you didn't get it, or Serpentor, or even like Chuckles, you know. So I feel like this one is a much better choice as a San Diego Comic Con exclusive, just because, like I say, if for whatever reason, and I think if most people who want it, even if they're not going to the show, will have an opportunity to get it. But if for whatever reason it was not easily to get your hands on, I don't think it would be the end of the world. CJ says Nagahide actually, Nagahide, you get more with Nagahide though. You get multiple animals and stuff. I've seen that wave is starting to hit physical stores. I saw reports that it was showing up at Walmart. I'm still waiting for a Big Bad Toy Store to ship mine out. Davey says, "When are we going to get Dr. Mindbender on a retro card?" You got to imagine it will come, but I've not heard anything. So when is if is probably fairly likely, but when I really have no idea. I'm still salty as fuck over Serpentor and Dr. Did you? Yeah, I would be if I missed out on those figures. I would be, those would be huge holes in a collection. So, I mean, Hasbro has made those available a couple of different times on Hasbro Pulse, but but yeah, and like I say, Doctor Mindbender probably will get the retro card back treatment at some point. I could even see them doing Serpentor on a retro card back, though he wouldn't come with the air chariot, so you wouldn't get that, which would kind of suck. Northern Nomad says, I got out of G.I. Joe Classified last year and just sticking to Marvel Legends, McFarlane, DC Envy, and a few other miscellaneous lines with NECA and Jada Toys. Jada Toys is on fire with their Street Fighter. That's like a great line. I've finally got my the two newest one, the M Bison Wave, is shipping from Big Bad Toy Store, so I'll have those two figures in my hands very soon. But that is a great line. GI Joe Classified still to me is probably my favorite line that I'm collecting right now. So um, yeah, for Marvel is kind of like up and down for me. Marvel Legends, um, like every time I start to like feel like myself wandering away from that line, then they'll do something that kind of pulls me back in. So I still pretty active with that line. Star Wars, almost like I have not bought a new Star Wars figure in a long time, so I've really lost total interest in Star Wars these days. Which that was actually something I wanted to touch upon today was talking about the Hasbro HasLab Cantina. So we're in our final week for that. I don't know if anybody here is backing that campaign, um, but right now we still need almost 1,500 backers, um, and like I say, about a week for this to reach its minimum funding goal. So you know, I still will say that this will end up getting funded, that we will get to 8,000 when all is said and done, just because we always get these huge, magical, big boosts at the very end. So, you know, if we were just going by how many backers it's been getting on a daily basis over the past several weeks, I would say this is not going to get funded because it has not even been doing over 1,000 a week. Um, and it, like I say, it needs still about 1,500. But again, usually, like in the last day, we'll get this huge bump of backers. So I feel like probably within the next few days, we'll get over 7,000, and then in the last day or so we'll end up getting that last 1,000 to get us over 8,000. I don't think the stretch goals are going to get unlocked with this one, so if those extra figures was like a deciding factor, I'm much more doubtful that those will get included. But and I mean, I'm not going to say 100% I think it'll get back, because like I say, if we were just going by what it's been doing as far as the number of backers each day, it doesn't look good. I'm just taking into account that we usually get that big HasLab boost at the very end. Like we saw with Giant Man with Marvel Legends last year, things like that. So I still feel like there's a pretty decent chance that we'll get to the 8,000. But like, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know how many, if any of you guys out there are planning on trying to get this, if you've backed it or thinking about backing it. To me, it's a cool looking thing for what it is. It's just, to me, like I say, the only vintage collection, or like I've said before, the only vintage collection item that I would even consider at this point getting is if they did a Death Star playset, and they just seem to refuse to want to do that. So And as long as they keep doing vintage collection, that's the only thing I could really see them doing that I would end up wanting to get. But like I say, right now we are almost needing 1,500 with a week to go. So we'll have to see how it'll be a nail biter. I definitely think it's going to take every bit of those 7 days to get to 8,000 backers. Steve Reno backed it, so he is on board. So for you, I hope it does. I hope it reaches the 8,000. Like for me, there's a part of me it's like, well, you didn't give me the Death Star, so I hope this thing fails. But then there's like, well, but there are people obviously that want this and like this, and so for them, I hope it gets backed. Um, but yeah, CJ, M Bison coming tomorrow. The Wholesome on the 8th. I got a shipping notice just today for mine. They're coming together, so from Big Bad Toy Store, but I didn't look and see when they're supposed to arrive. But I assume they'll be here sometime this week. Um, I still have, I don't know if you can see it back there on top of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 video game. I still have my Soda Toys M Bison figure, which is a very good figure. Um, so I was a little on the fence about that one of like, did I really need it? But I don't have the Wholesome, so that is one I definitely wanted to get. Judge Dredd says, don't really do crowdfunding. I mean, if it's something I want, I have no problem backing it. But like I say, in the case of the Cantina, I'm just not that interested. I am very excited though to see, you know, at San Diego Comic Con. So in 24 days, we will get to see the GI Joe classified HasLab. So that is possibly the thing I'm most eagerly anticipating for San Diego this year is to see which I still think is the Cobra Rattler. That is still where I'm putting my money on as what this year's GI Joe classified HasLab is going to be. Um, but definitely, I am eagerly anticipating that. Let's see what else. What else? I feel like that's pretty much. Oh, a couple other things just to touch upon. So, Boss Fight Studios has revealed their new Garfield figures. So, Garfield's a pretty classic character. So, these are $25 each. They went up for pre order today. We've got Garfield and Odie, of course. This female Garfield, I forget her name. Was Normal, I guess. So it's a three-figure wave. I don't remember this character at all, to be honest. I'm surprised they didn't do John for the third figure, but I'm sure there'll be a second wave. Like I could see the second wave being some variants of Garfield and Odie, and then give us John. There aren't like a ton of Garfield characters out there that I feel like they could tap into. And Garfield comes with lasagna, of course, nicely articulated. I mean, if you're a Garfield fan, these look like pretty nice figures. So, and I believe I was looking to see if it specifically says, but so it looks like I'm reading this correctly. Uh, So 25 points of articulation. I want to say these are 6-inch scale, but I don't. Nobody's. So I'm not. Again, I'm not seeing it actually listed, but yeah. But I think these are a 6-inch scale. So the figures themselves, being Garfield's not as tall as a human, isn't 6 inches, but I think these are 6-inch scale figures. So if like we ever do get John, he'll probably be 6 inches. But they look good. I mean, again, if you're a fan of Garfield, I don't know how many Garfield fans are out there, but and then also those Spin Master PlayStation figures, um, the first two, the Kratos and the Aloy figure, those are available. Those went up for pre-order today on Big Bad Toys or on Big Bad Toys on Amazon. So if you're wanting to get these, the Aloy figure is $50. It's a deluxe type figure. The Kratos is $30. You know, everything I've seen of these figures, they're really nicely detailed. So, Spin Master, obviously, that's who's putting these out, is not well established in the world of 6-inch figures, but it seems like for these, they did a really good job. I can't speak to the quality of like the joint construction and stuff since I've never had these in hand, but they look like pretty solid figures. Obviously, other companies have done Kratos before, like NECA. I think McFarlane did one as well at some point. But both of those figures, if you've been wanting to get them, are available at on Amazon right now. I assume at some point places like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth will carry them, but I don't know when. Skunk to Life Media. Well, I mean, keep in mind, Soda figures, which I think still hold up pretty well today. But I mean, those figures came out in the '90s. Those came out around the same time as the original Toy Biz Marvel Legend figures. So, and like if you look at original Toy Biz Marvel Legend figure, they don't hold up nearly as well as like the Soda Street Fighter stuff does. Um, so again, compared to a modern day action figure, they do look a little dated, but for the most part, as old as they are, they still hold up pretty well. Judge Dreads, I really only need Balrog to finish. I'm only getting the characters I played in the game. Yeah, I don't know how deep I will go. I definitely want like all the original Street Fighter 2 characters. But beyond that, that's probably would be it for me. So we'll see how deep Jada gets on those, but definitely all of the characters from the original Street Fighter 2, I would be interested in getting. Your buddy, yeah, I think you should probably listen to him. I mean, if you're a fan of the character, Author Chin, yeah. So, like I say, it's up on Amazon. Skunk for life. Well, again, yeah, compared to today, but I mean, back then, Toy Biz 6-inch figures were the best thing out there, and I mean, they still have a place in my heart. Though obviously, as far as what I don't display very few Toy Biz Marvel Legend figures. I still display, um, but I mean, it was a great line. As was the Soda Street Fighter figures. I'm not sure there's any Toy Biz figure that I like better than a modern version. There are some that I think still very much hold up to today that you could very well display on your shelf. And there are things about Toy Biz figures like the paint applications. I mean, most Toy Biz figures do have a lot better paint applications than Hasbro figures, just more detailed. Um, but in overall appearance, like sculpting and all that, big thing with the Toy Biz is like the shoulders. The shoulders look really off on most of the figures, so that's really what the the biggest downfall for Toy Biz figures compared to modern day figures. Judge Judd says, I'm cool with my NECA Kratos with those lion. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If I had the NECA one, I don't know if I'd buy the Spin Master one. I'm not sure if how well they scale, but yeah, the NECA one's pretty. It was a pretty good figure for articulation. Might be a little. I don't know. Since I don't have the Spin Master ones in hand, I can't really say, but I could maybe conceivably see articulation being a little bit better on the Spin Master figure, just based on the images I've seen. But the NECA one was definitely a nice figure. CJ says, only Soda Street Fighter I'd get is Sakura, just to throw in another female, and she holds up. I think I still have that one. I have Cammy. Actually, I have the green Cammy with the skates, and then I have a pink one too from Soda somewhere. But again, it will be curious to see how deep Soda Toys goes with that line. Because I mean, what we get 1-2 waves a year, it seems like from Jada. So they're not exactly putting these out at a super fast pace. So it'll probably take some time for them to really go deep in the library. Though I am glad that they're kind of mixing it up, that they're not just doing all the main character. Like, I mean, I was Ken and Ryu, or especially Ryu. I mean, I have like 3 or 4 different versions of Ryu. Chun-Li too, because I've got the Storm Collectible, the first Storm Collectibles Ryu. I've got the Jada Toys Ryu. I've got the Soda Toys Ryu. I've got a Jazzwares Ryu. I don't know if you recall, Jazzwares did. They were kind of like cheap versions of the Soda figures. They got released at places like KB Toys and stuff. So I've got a Ryu from that. I've got the Playmates Toys Chun-Li that they did with the turtle figures. So, and that's a pretty good Chun-Li. I mean, Playmates did, with the 2 Street Fighter figures they did, those were actually not bad. It's just, since it was a special line with turtles, we were never going to get like all the various characters from Playmates toys. Mr. Hanzo, now that we are more than halfway through the year, what figure have I picked up in 2024 that's been my personal figure of the year? You're asking me what my favorite figure of this year so far is. Let's First of all, I always forget what like when you start thinking of figures that came out at the very end of last year as opposed to this year. So I always forget exactly when figures came out. But off the top of my head, great figures so far this year, the Marvel Legends Angel figure, which you can see behind me there, that is a fantastic figure. Hasbro did a great job with that one. Most of the G.I. Joe classified figures I love. The Cobra Hiss tank, I don't know if you want to count that. I guess that kind of came out at the end of last year, right? So, what else? What else? I'm just kind of looking. definitely for me, it would either be something from GI Joe Classified or Marvel Legends. I think, though, again, Jada, those Street Fighter figures are really nice, but I don't know if I'd put those as my favorite figures of the year. But Jada has definitely impressed me because one of the reasons why I'm impressed with Jada is not like, they're very new to the 6-inch action figure game. Um, and they gave us figures that, you can pose without breaking. I get so tired of figures that if you look at them wrong, they break. Um, so the fact that Jada was able to give us a very reasonably priced 6-inch action figure with some pretty decent accessories at a reasonable cost, that to me makes it a great line. Marvel again, Marvel Legends, like I say, they've been doing some pretty cool stuff. G.I. Joe Classified. Brian says Yolo Park Optimus is my top. I've heard a lot of good things about those. I do not have any of them, but everyone I know who does say they're very cool figures. To me, for Transformers, I like my Transformers to transform, which honestly is weird because I don't really transform them that much. But I still, for like my go-to G1 Transformers, it's masterpiece stuff. So, but the Yellow Park stuff definitely, I think, has been looks really cool. I saw somebody ask? Oh, CJ, the Vamp. Yeah, the Vamp was definitely, I'd put up there high. I mean, that's a great vehicle. They did a pretty good job with clutch. So I don't know if I'd consider that my favorite, but definitely a solid vehicle and figure overall. Judge Dredd. I did not. Um, Very nice looking figure, but I'm just not a huge Odin fan. And at $60, I was like, yeah. I mean, I could eventually end up picking it up, maybe, but I'm just not. It's not that I think the figure is bad, but it's just that I'm not a big enough fan of Odin um, to be worth spending $60 for. So no, I did not get that one. God, take my figure of the year is the new strawberry shortcake by the loyal subjects. Something to, I'm trying because loyal subjects strawberry shortcake were more like dolls, weren't they? Wasn't it Boss Fight Studio that actually did strawberry shortcake action figures with like accessories and articulation and things? I feel like the loyal subject stuff was more like the original strawberry shortcake dolls, and I honestly don't know if you were being sarcastic or if that's truly your figures of the year. But there is actually strawberry shortcake action figures out there that Boss Fight Studio is doing. And those actually, if you're into strawberry shortcake, those look pretty good. Ratio, yeah. It was the 2-pack, but the Sabretooth head sculpt and scale was worth the. I got, yeah, the 2-pack with Sabretooth this year. I got that. That was pretty good. But I wouldn't put that as my figure of the year. I think the Angel, like as far as if we're just keeping it to Marvel Legends, I think that Angel figure to me is probably the best figure they've done so far. And part of it's just I like the character, I like the look, I like the wings. I think they did a really good job with the wings. Um, so yeah, Judge just says Hiya Toys King Ghidorah figure is my favorite toy of the year, but I got a lot of favorites. Yeah, Hiya Toys Godzilla figures have looked pretty good. I'm not that big of Godzilla collector, so I don't have a lot of Godzilla. The only Godzilla figure I have, I got the Super 7 uh, Ultimate one, that the first one they did that was based on like the Shogun figure that Mattel did back in the day. And that was more for nostalgia because I had that original Shogun as a kid. I always remember firing the fist off and the tongue that you stick out, which was supposed to be his fire breath. So that's the only Godzilla, like modern Godzilla figure that I've gotten recently. But Hayatoy stuff, their GI Joe figures look pretty good, but I don't own any of them, so I don't know what the quality is on those. Collecting Rush, holding out on Blue Angel, which I'm sure will come at some point. Godding says, Kenner made the first Strawberry Shortcake figures, and yes, I was talking about the Loyal Subject Strawberry. I'll have to go back and look, because like I said, I don't remember Loyal Subjects doing I remember them. I remember seeing some Strawberry Shortcake stuff from them, but I don't remember them being actual action figures. It was the boss fight ones that I remember. But I'll go back and look at that at some point. I mean, I'm not really into Strawberry Shortcake myself, so it's not something I would buy. But I thought when Boss Fight did announce those ones, I thought that was kind of interesting. And isn't Loyal Subjects also doing Rainbow Bright, if I'm remembering correctly? CJ says, I said Angel, but I wasn't sure if it was being biased. Angel is one of my top favorite mutants. I guess before we get to anything like X Factor, I would like to see Hasbro finish my X-Force team with Feral and Excalibur with Phoenix, Rachel Summers Phoenix. I was finally able to complete my X Factor team with Wolfsbane, but at some point I would love to see like the original X Factor team, the original X-Men in their original X Factor outfits. All right, well, we've gone late today. We last live stream was kind of short, so I guess we made up for it today. But I think we're going to call it a day. But as always, guys, thank you for coming in and listening to me ramble. It's always appreciated. Be back on Wednesday. I don't know. I feel like we might get we had quite a bit of news in June, and now there's kind of like that calm before the storm before San Diego. So we'll have to see how much news pops up between now and Wednesday, but should probably be back on Wednesday with another live stream video. Friday will be a normal pre-recorded video. But as always, guys, thank you very much for coming in here and listening to me ramble. Stay safe out there, and until next time, I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, please think about hitting that subscribe button. Also hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. For all the latest action figure news, be sure to head over to ToyNewsEye.com, MarvelousNews.com, JediInsider.com, and TFormers.com. And remember, action figures are great,